Let me please invite our next innovator on stage. We have Thiarajan, founder and chief scientist, Sapien Labs. We're about to unravel the modern world and the human mind.
So you've all heard a lot today about artificial intelligence. So I'm here to talk to you about real intelligence, because after all, we are a biological organism. And as a biological species, success means the capacity to thrive in your environment and to perpetuate into the future. So when we talk about progress and prosperity of society, it should improve that capacity of human beings to thrive as biological organisms. Now, today we sit at one of those times in history by our measures of success, which are things like GDP growth and money. It's one of the most successful times in history. And the question is, what has all this modern progress done to the human mind and this capacity to thrive? So what we want to talk about here is mind health, right? This capacity for the human mind to navigate life's challenges and function productively. And this requires a whole lot of different capabilities. A whole lot of emotional, social, cognitive capacities. Now let's look at what all the modern world has done to the mind using some of the large data that we have out there in the world today. So back in 2008, social scientists were measuring well-being. And what they found was that young people always scored very high on this measure, and it would dip in middle age and then come back up. And this came to be known as the U-shaped curve of happiness. Now, fast forward to today, it's no longer the case. This has collapsed, right? But well-being is, maybe this is not all of those factors of mind health. But if we actually look at a metric of mind health, which encompasses all of these various emotional, social, and cognitive capacities, looks very similar. Every younger age group is now doing worse. And you might think, okay, that you have poor mind health when you're young, but then as you grow older, it gets better and better. But that's not the case. There's a huge mounting evidence that, in fact, mind health is declining with every younger generation. And you see here this line at 100. That's how the scale of this metric is calibrated to be a normal population. So if you look across the globe, this is the modern internet-enabled populations of each country. What you can see is older people, 55 and above, are all doing very close to that 100 mark. You can even see India looks a little bit higher above this mean. But now go down to younger age groups, 18 to 34, for example. And you see there's not a single country left on the globe that is in that range. Now, the question is, why is this happening? Or if you look at this in terms of mental health terms, lots of people are talking about mental health now. If you look at 55 and above, there are about 10% of the population that actually have what you would consider mental health problems of clinical significance. Now, as you get younger and younger, from this age 40% to adolescents today, it's even higher than 50%. So you have to consider, right? Just pause and consider, what will it mean when half the population of the world is no longer as capable of controlling their emotions, getting along with others, focus, and functioning productively every day. So the real question then is, why is this happening? We're supposed to be at the best time in history. The bottom line here is that we've really created an environment, that is antithetical to the construction of the human mind. And to understand this is to understand what the human mind needs to thrive. So one of the things, and you just heard a lot about the ocean cleanup, we've created a chemical environment that has become exponentially neurotoxic. We have today in our food system a whole host of chemicals, colors, flavors, additives, preservatives. Many of these are neurotoxic. They either just kill brain cells or they disrupt its signaling in various different ways. We also have the microplastics plasticizers on the inside of your cups, exponentially growing load of pesticides. And these are now in baby food, they're in infant formula. We see that what's happened is that they're now, you see them in urine, you see them in blood, you see them in the placenta, and what it shows us that every generation with the higher neurotoxic load, the nervous system is becoming increasingly weakened, so it is no longer as capable of the same degree of control and regulation of thoughts and emotions. Now, we layer on the technocultural environment. So the technocultural smartphones have, not just exposed children to things like pornography and violence, but they've also shifted time away from in-person social interaction. And this is a fundamental human capability. A huge part of the brain is dedicated to this kind of social cognition, which is things like learning how to read facial expressions, body language, understand group dynamics, solve conflicts, all of the things that you do, if you're playing cricket in your colony and you have to decide who's out or not out and solve the problem. All of these kinds of capabilities, social cognition has been a very core capability of human beings that has distinguished us from other species. But what you see as you give children smartphones at a younger age, they have less of this capability as adults, and they also have more problems with feeling detached from reality, aggression, and suicidal thoughts. So you have to ask, how we let this happen? One of the reasons, I think, is because we use a measure of progress that, of just bigger is better. And I want to show you by analogy just what some of the flaws in that are. And to the human body, from birth to adulthood, if you just said you looked at growing bigger as the metric of increasing capability, it's a pretty good proxy, because as you go from infancy to adulthood, you are going to gain in your speed and you get smarter, you can read, you can walk, and so on. But there's a point when the system reaches a stable state in terms of the number of cells where that doesn't work as easily anymore, but there are ways to do it. So you can increase muscle mass and become bigger, and this can have all of these benefits of increasing your strength and stamina and energy, even focus, and a whole lot of things. But there is a limit to how big you can grow in this way. If you really want to grow, and that's the whole point of it, then consumption is really the best and fastest way. The more you consume, the bigger you can get, and the faster you can get there. Okay, so when you consume more and more, what happens is the fat cells start to grow and enlarge and occupy a greater footprint. But they don't contribute to the capability of the system. And even after a point, they start to detract from the capability of the system. There is even a third way that the human body can grow bigger. This is called a tumor, right? Tumor cells are very, very clever because what they have done is found a way to divert blood flow and resources and nutrients to fuel their growth. Now, because this requires a very different metabolic process, a lot of them, these tumors can release toxins into the bloodstream. So over time, they start to starve the rest of the system of nutrients, and they also poison the system. But for a very long time, this can go on, and it can be a great party for the tumor cells until one day, suddenly, it's not anymore. So, I leave it to you all to decide or think about what aspect of, which of these paradigms is most similar to the way our modern economies are going, and aligns with this decline in mind health of human beings that we are seeing generation by generation. But one of the challenges, it's not just that we don't have the right metrics to measure capability. We're measuring size without any concern for what that means in terms of the capability of the system. But also, we don't have the right language to talk about these sorts of things in terms of the economy and progress. So, we're here talking about innovation. As human beings, we are inclined to do things that are novel and clever. And we love things that are novel and clever. But the implicit assumption in innovation is that novel and clever means that it always will enable human prosperity. But But what about those things that don't enable human prosperity, right? We don't have a word to distinguish between these. What about those things that either misunderstand how we are constructed as biological organisms and are destructive to human life? We don't have a word, so we should have one, and I'm going to coin it here. So let's call that denovation, right? And the question for us is really, how can we, as a collective humanity, really innovate rather than denovate so that we can actually ensure our success, our biological success as a species? Thank you.